Today, I am sharing with you some parts of my PhD research. The topic of my PhD research was democratization in the Gulf countries, and its subtitle was Role of the United States under the Bush administration, 2000 to 2008. In fact, what happened, 9/11 in 2001, there were attacks against America on 9/11. These were huge events, and they led to huge policy changes, huge foreign policy changes in American foreign policy. And before 9/11, American foreign policy towards the Middle East was not democracy, it was stability. Americans believed that if they would push democracy in the Arab world, it may lead to instability, civil wars, disruptions, chaos, and it may hinder the flow of oil towards the West if there is instability. So the Americans wanted stability in the Middle East so that oil and other minerals continue to flow smoothly towards the West, including the United States. Are you getting the point? Are you getting the point? Before 9/11, the Americans were not much concerned about democracy in the Arab countries. But when 9/11 took place, there was a very forceful argument. What was the argument? Many Americans said that extremism and terrorism flourish in Middle East because there is no democracy in the Middle East. The human rights are not upheld in the Arab world. It causes extremism and terrorism in the Arab countries. There was America formed a 9/11 commission. American government formed a 9/11 commission to investigate the events of 9/11. And it found that Al-Qaeda was behind the 9/11 attacks. And who were the leaders of Al-Qaeda? And who was Osama bin Laden? He was an Arab. He belonged to Saudi Arabia. And there were many Arabs in Al-Qaeda. So many Americans argued Arabs, they are causing terrorism against United States because there is no democracy, there are no human rights in the Middle East, in the Arab countries. And if America should promote democracy, America should promote democracy in the Arab countries. So the Bush, at that time, George Bush was president of the United States. George Bush Jr. His father was also president, George Bush. His name was also Bush in the 90s, I think. So, but he is son of the senior Bush, George Bush. He launched a freedom agenda for the Middle East. Freedom agenda for the Middle East. And under this agenda, the American governmental organizations and the non-governmental organizations, they carried out a large number of activities, seminars, conferences, video conferences, video competitions, trainings, okay, and visits, exchange programs, in order to introduce democratic values, democratic norms, democratic behaviors and attitudes in the Arab countries, including the Gulf countries. My thesis is focused on Arab Gulf states. My thesis is focused on Arab Gulf states. Arabian Gulf is part of the Middle East. Middle East is a larger area. The Arab Gulf states are 6. They are 6. Anybody knows the names? Anybody knows the names? Okay, I tell you. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, and Oman. These are 6 countries. They are called Arab Gulf states. Arab Gulf states. And Yemen is also an Arab Gulf state, but it is not part of the GCC. These 6 countries, they have their own international organization, Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council. So I took these GCC, 6 GCC states, Gulf countries, because they are closer to each other under this GCC. So I did not include Yemen. So when the Americans were working on promotion of democracy in the Middle East, they were also engaged in the Arabian Gulf states. So my study was focused on these six Gulf states. Now, in this chapter 6, I analyze how the governments, how the societies of these 6 countries responded to the American calls for democracy, American pressure for democracy. That is why I have titled it Response of the Governments in the Arab Gulf States. Many political scientists believe that democracy only succeeds when local social forces support it. This means democracy grows only when it fits well with the society that accepts it. Democracy becomes stronger when many pressure groups, social classes, and interest groups work within democratic rules. Some scholars also argue that international support for democracy is very important. International support becomes more important when internal forces inside a country are weak. Internal democratic forces, when they are weak, external support becomes very important. A supportive international environment also helps push countries toward democracy. When political systems in the Gulf states started to change, the role of the United States became very important. This chapter studies how the United States influenced the political process in the Gulf states. Political change in the Gulf happens slowly and gradually. The change takes place step by step. But at the same time, this change is supported by a variety of internal and external forces. Variety of internal forces support this change, and variety of external forces support this slow, gradual change in the Arab countries. American policymakers always mention that democracy in the Gulf must appear through local processes. They said local societies should shape their own political systems. They believed that democratic reforms work best when they come from national leaders and local institutions. Even then, American governments continued to support democratic reforms. The US tried to support reforms that were already gaining acceptance in the region. The United States encouraged Gulf rulers to introduce democratic changes. It also pushed them to cooperate with various American agencies working in the region. Because of this, international pressure played a vital role in supporting democracy in the Gulf. Many American activities in the region focused on providing alternative political ideas. Alternative political ideas. The prevailing political ideas are authoritarianism, kings, crown princes, monarchs, male dominance, authoritarianism, okay, punishments, huge fines. This was the prevailing paradigm. So the American activities in this region focused on providing alternative political ideas. What are the alternative political ideas? Democracy, political equality, openness, freedom, rights, mutual respect. Okay, these are the alternative ideas. These ideas often challenge the existing political systems. To understand the political reforms happening today, the role of the American government and American civil society organizations has to be considered. In the post 9/11 period, political change in the Gulf continued. Democratic changes made progress step by step. Democratic change make progress step by step. These changes became stronger with international support. 6.1 Constitutional, judicial, and political developments. Important constitutional changes happened in the Gulf monarchies between 2000 and 2008. Bahrain took the lead. It introduced a new constitution in 2002. For the first time, I think, Bahrain introduced a new constitution. Qatar followed next. Qatar implemented its new constitution in 2003. There was one major difference between the two constitutions of Bahrain and Qatar. The Qatari constitution was approved by the people. Qatari constitution was approved by the people. A popular referendum was held in Qatar. In this referendum, 96% of Qatari voters agreed with the new constitution. Men and women both voted in this referendum in April 2003. In Bahrain, the situation was different. Bahrain actually brought back the 1973 constitution. This return of the 1973 constitution basically meant a new constitution was introduced in Bahrain. Yes, Bahrain, there was an old constitution, but it was not functional. So it introduced a new constitution in 2002. So it can be considered as the resumption of 1973 constitution. Both Bahrain and Qatar made big steps toward changing their political systems. Both countries moved toward becoming constitutional monarchies. One is monarchy, another is constitutional monarchy. There is a difference between monarchy and constitutional monarchy. Constitutional monarchy is democracy. You know, United Kingdom, UK, it is also a constitutional monarchy. There is a monarch, there is a king in the UK, you know. But the king observes the constitution. So it is democracy. The new Bahraini constitution banned physical torture, psychological torture, and all ill treatment of prisoners. These things were banned, forbidden in the new constitution in Bahrain. This helped people feel more respected and more dignified. Both Bahrain and Kuwait introduced the idea of separation of powers. Separation of powers. If there is no democracy, the king or the dictator has all the powers. If there is democracy, there is separation of powers. There is a separate institution for making the laws, legislative. There is a separate institution for implementing the laws, the executive. and there is a separate institution for deciding the conflicts, judiciary. But if there's no democracy, then in kingdoms, in monarchies, the kings and monarchs, they have all the powers with them. So, in both Bahrain and Kuwait introduced the idea of separation of powers. In Bahrain, legislative power is now given to a two-house legislative body. Two-house. You know houses? Houses in parliament. In Pakistani parliament, how many houses are there? Eh? Pakistani parliament. How many houses has Pakistani parliament? Two. There are two houses. Yes. Upper house and lower house. Upper house is Senate and lower house is National Assembly. There are two houses. This body has the Bahraini parliament. Bahraini parliament, it has the Nawab Council, which is the lower house, and the Shura Council, which appoints the members of the upper house. Each house has 40 members. Members of the lower house are elected through universal adult voting. Universal adult voting. All adult citizens have vote. The Qatari constitution also divides powers among three branches. The Emir and his cabinet hold executive power. The Shura Council holds legislative power. The courts hold judicial power. Kuwait has also moved forward with separation of powers. For the first time in Kuwait's history, the Prime Minister and Crown Prince became two different people. Before this, the Prime Minister was also the Crown Prince, and the Prime Minister and Crown Prince became two different people. Yes, the Prime Minister would be the Crown Prince as well. After the previous king, he would become the king. Now they became different. The Prime Minister is now answerable to the Parliament. These reforms support transparency. These reforms support transparency. What is transparency? I have already explained in previous classes. Transparency. When people can see what is happening, it is called transparency. Okay? Transparent glass. This glass, is this transparent? Yes. This is transparent. You can see beyond it. You can see across it. It is transparent. Is this wall transparent? No. So we don't know what is happening behind this. But behind this glass, we can see who is going. Anybody going or not. So this is called transparency. Political transparency means where people know what is happening in the political system. What is the government doing actually? It is called transparency. These reforms support transparency. They support good governance. They help in building stronger institutions. In Bahrain, legislative elections had not been held for almost 30 years. The new constitution of Bahrain required elections to take place. Qatar held its referendum in 2003. The Emir approved the constitution in June 2004. Qatar's new constitution created a 45-member parliament. It also introduced universal suffrage. Universal suffrage means, anybody knows universal suffrage? What is suffrage? The right to vote. You should ask. If you don't understand, you should ask me. Suffrage means right to vote. Right to vote is called suffrage. Universal suffrage means when all adult citizens have the right to vote. Universal suffrage. Qataris aged 18 and above were given the right to vote in May 2008. The Shura Council approved the election law in 2008. This law created secret and direct voting. The Qatari Shura Council can review the draft budget. The parliament, it can check the budget. So it is a check on the king. It can also amend the draft budget. Earlier, Qatar's Shura Council had only 35 members and all of them were appointed by the king. They were not elected. Now they are elected. So people have say in the parliament. Now the council has 45 members, Shura Council. 30 members are elected, 15 are appointed. If 2/3 of the Shura Council agree on a bill, it becomes law after the Emir approves it. The council passes the budget. It oversees government activities. The council can question ministers. Shura Council can question the ministers, ask questions to the ministers. It can send ministers home by a vote of no confidence. Qatar's new constitution also protects people's rights and freedoms. It gives the right of assembly, new constitution of Qatar. It gives the right to form associations. It ensures an independent judiciary, freedom of expression, and freedom of religious activities. No changes are allowed that reduce the freedoms given to the people. Some analysts say the new Qatari constitution is one of the most modern in the Arab world. The Emir of Qatar created the Supreme Constitutional Court as another reform step. Saudi Arabia also saw reforms in February 2009. The Economist. You know The Economist? What is The Economist? It's a newspaper, famous newspaper in Britain. The Economist reported that the reform could allow the council to choose King Abdullah's successor. This could become the first semi-democratic transfer of power in Saudi history, even if it were limited to princes. King Abdullah replaced conservative judges in Saudi courts. There were conservative judges in Saudi courts. The king replaced them. He replaced them with reform-minded judges. The king replaced conservative judges with reform-minded judges. He also replaced the conservative head of the judiciary, conservative chief justice. In February 2009, to send them home and appoint new ones. To send somebody home and appoint a new person, it is called replacement. To force someone to retire. In February 2009, the king removed the head of the Supreme Judicial Council, Sheikh Saleh Lohaydan. Sheikh Saleh Lohaydan. Sheikh Saleh Lohaydan also removed a number of other senior judges. Sheikh Lohaydan was known for giving very harsh rulings. बड़े सख्त फैसले करते थे वो. One ruling said it was legal to kill owners of TV channels showing immorality. The Saudi judge, he gave the decision that it was legal to kill TV channel owners with the channels which show immorality. It is a very harsh decision. According to a 2008 annual report on civil society and democratization in the Arab world, Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. Absolute monarchy means where monarch has all powers, absolutely powerful. Bahrain and Qatar are constitutional monarchies. Constitutional monarchies where kings are not all powerful. Some power is with the parliaments and the people. Kuwait is a constitutional hereditary emirate. Kuwait was included in the Community of Democracies Forum. Community of Democracies, it means some foreigners, foreign entities, they consider Kuwait as a democracy. After 9/11, large reforms and political changes took place in the Gulf countries. The momentum of reforms continued, parliamentary politics moved forward, political systems became more open, political pluralism increased. After 9/11, the Gulf region experienced a historic rise in electoral politics. This happened because of the constitutional developments taking place. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Oman held their first ever elections after the US announced its policy of promoting democracy in the Middle East. Qatar held its first parliamentary polls in 2007. 6.2 Subsection of Chapter 6 Education and Economic Sectors. Fattah is an Arab scholar. He says that the education sector is an important area when we think of or talk about democracy in any part of the world. Fattah says highly educated people can easily learn how democracy works in other countries. He says their cost of getting information is low. Educated people can easily get the information. Because of this, such people show more support for democracy. The ruling regimes in the GCC introduced reforms also in the education sector. In Saudi Arabia, the religious elite lost its exclusive control over girls' education in March 2002. The religious elite in Saudi Arabia, they had full control over girls' education. Just like Afghan Taliban have full control over girls' education now. Previously in Saudi Arabia, it was like this. English was added as a subject at earlier school grades. The king replaced conservative officials in the education ministry with modern and dynamic officials. In the United Arab Emirates, the Ministry of Education introduced a plan in 2002 to monitor education reforms. The ministry formed local committees. These committees were told to check school textbooks. They were asked to remove any content that contained offensive language or discriminatory language. Offensive language which is against someone, which offends someone. Okay? For example, if you write something against the followers of a particular religion, it is offensive. If you write something against against an ethnic group, okay, if you write something against men or women, it is offensive, discriminatory. So they wanted to check their textbooks so that anything which is offensive or discriminatory, it is cleared. Zakaria, in his book, The Future of Freedom, talks about the importance of a free economy for building and strengthening liberal democracy. He says that a true entrepreneurial business class can become the most important force for change in the Middle East. Fareed Zakaria argues that economic reforms must come first because they are basic and essential economic reforms. Sayyid Wald Abba from Ash-Sharq al-Awsat, it is a newspaper, Ash-Sharq al-Awsat, Middle East, explains that there is now a new energy among the people of the region. There is a new energy among the people in the Arab world. He says the rise of the middle class has created a vibrant private sector. He says this private sector has helped push people toward demanding reforms. Oman and Bahrain signed free trade agreements with the United States. Kuwait signed a trade and investment framework agreement with the United States in 2005, TIFA. The UAE made a TIFA Plus arrangement with the US in 2007. Bahrain allowed labor unions for the first time after signing the FTA with the US. The private sector in the Gulf has now grown strongly. It has reached a level where it openly highlights demands for reform in the region. Okay, ji, here we stop.